Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back in day to about Märchen Crown, chapter number 18. This chapter is titled Night of Tresses. And I opened up this chapter, I'm like, oh, that's a weird chapter title, what does it mean? And in case you guys were not as well informed as I was, because to be completely honest with you, I had no idea what that meant. I actually did a quick Google search, and it was actually a very easy one to do. So a tresses, or often said in the world of tresses, I should have heard the pronunciation before I started saying all of these words, right? But it pretty much means a long lock of woman's hair, or like to arrange a person's hair into long locks, which obviously makes sense. That is the whole Rapunzel fairy tale of up in the sky high tower pretty much, and escaping down using one's own hair as a rope from their entire life, right? So it really makes sense why this chapter is titled this, being that Mikel has now taken this form on, known as the true love form, as King Ilya pretty much says in the end of last chapter, and he also says it in the beginning of this chapter. But good chapter title name aside, this is one of those chapters of Märchen Crown that truly left me speechless in one of the worst ways possible. Because I have been saying ever since we started getting this confrontation of like, oh my gosh, it's going to be Mikel versus Ilya and all this other various stuff. Like, I'm opening up my YouTube studio real quick to see whenever this battle actually started. Let's go over to content, playlists, and where's my Märchen Crown chapter reviews? There we go. So it looks like the battle probably started. It was, what? Latin in a live reading was chapter number 14. That was a video I done it. So the battle, I'm pretty sure, started then. It's whenever Mikel got the glass sword, and then Ilya went into his centipede form in 15. 16 was whenever Mikel was ripped apart. It's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And the last chapter was Mikel pretty much being revived and being brought into this new form pretty much, right? And as I mentioned, yeah, it's pretty much what happened last time. There's this little bit of an interesting conversation between Mikel and Rapunzel, as the two of them were sort of just sitting there, and it was this little bit of a weird thing where they're just like, hey, I've loved you this entire time. Oh, really? You loved me because I've loved you. And it was all this stuff going back and forth until we eventually get the whole idea of, oh, wow, would you believe it? Mikel's alive again, pretty much, right? And pretty much the end of last chapter is Ilya being like, oh my gosh, so you've awakened to true love, have you, Mikel? And that's where we start off this chapter of Märchen Crown, as Ilya in his centipede form, his glass, like, veil protecting his face had just been pierced by Mikel, summoning a sword made out of hair, I guess, here in the moment to pretty much, like, pierce through Ilya's face thing. And Ilya's like, oh, so you've awakened, have you, Mikel, to true love? As we get a full page spread, pretty much getting a look at what Mikel's form currently looks like. As we just see, it's like all of these cursed vines and all of this stuff that's building up around his body. And along with that, like, I sort of called them a bunch of these, like, muscle tendons and fibers last time. We get a better idea now that those are simply just, like, locks of hair that are pretty much going around Mikel's body. As, like, he's standing up there to protect Rapunzel, who's, like, cowering in fear behind him, pretty much, right? And Rapunzel's like, oh, Mikel, like, what's going on? And Ilya, of course, who's just been pierced by Mikel's abilities, just like, oh, very well. As you should. However, though, as we see that Ilya just uses his ability to, like, move around to pretty much, like, toss up Mikel into the sky. Because, of course, Mikel sort of pierced in Ilya's head pretty much. And he throws up, he pretty much, like, shakes up his head. Mikel goes flying because he's attached to his sword. And he's just, like, now flying in the air, this mess of hair and vines and all this various stuff. As we see that Ilya sort of, like, moves around his pincers and, like, is like, oh, this changes nothing, Mikel. As we see, like, he prepares to go through, moves in his pincers together at the very front of his being, pretty much like making them into like almost this very sharp point and almost like a drill sort of thing. And he goes through and pierces Mikel here in the moment, right? But we see that this strike has so much force behind it that the castle of Pontina actually starts to shake a little bit from like the force behind this strike, as we see that both Mikel and King Ilya have sort of collided in one of the top dome areas of the castle where they currently are. And, of course, all of our characters who aren't currently fighting, all of the women, pretty much, you're all just, like, sitting down like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, right? We see that Bellina, or Cinderella, as we know her, of course, with Rapunzel and Lafina, are all like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, right? As we get a good look, that Mikel is completely fine. It seems like even though he's been pretty much crushed up against a wall over here in the back, Mikel's body is, like, just fine. No piercing has ever happened here. as Ilya's like, oh, how could my blades not penetrate? Is this some sort of armor made of hair? How? As we just get a really good look at Mikel's being, he's just smiling here in the moment, and all of the hair that was pretty much covering and pinching together his face sort of like unfolds to reveal these like really messed up eyes. It almost looks like Mikel's going into another rage. As we get another full page spread to see Mikel do all of this stuff, all of like the tendons around are like blossoming out, and like it's almost like these jagged flower vines almost that we see here, right? As Mikel's hands are now free, they reach over, grab both of Ilya's pincers, and start to pull and wedge them apart. As we see that like Mikel is so strong currently, he even shatters one of these pincers here in the moment, just like completely breaking it, right? And we just see that Ilya's like, oh no, as Mikel just breaks both of these pincers clean off, throws them on the ground, and jumps to the ground himself. And we see that Cinderella's like, no, King Ilya, King Ilya. As of course, Ilya isn't reacting very well to this either. He's like, oh no, it can't be. This can't happen. It's unforgivable. Do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed? My kingdom, my people. I threw it all away for the sake of my love. We weren't meant to lose. There's no way we can lose. You can't take this from us, Mikel. This love is ours. As we just see, Ilya is going through this whole crazed idea. These black vines are sprouting out of his face in here in the moment, coating his entire body with all of these powers and ideals. As we just see that he is heading straight towards Mikel. But Mikel has another trick up his sleeve, as Mikel comes around and forges a sword made out of hair here in this moment. And as Ilya is charging towards Mikel, Mikel jumps up in the air, holding the sword coming down and slashing clean through King Ilya. As we get a little bit of narration from Ilya's perspective, as Ilya just thinks, oh, so what you're telling me is that I had been afraid of the possibility that our love was incomplete. I desperately tried to bury it, to put those fears far from my mind. I convinced myself that belief was true, and every time I would remind myself of the pain and of the despair that bound us together. Perhaps at some point I lose sight of all else. Perhaps I even lost sight of you. As we just get all of the images of Ilya and Belina spending all of this time together, and eventually Belina started wearing this mask, and Ilya has been so blinded by his rage and of his goals that he can no longer remember the eyes of Cinderella Belina here in this moment. He thinks like, oh, now I see. That must be why I've lost. As we see that King Ilya's centipede form has been cut completely in half by Mikel's sword here as we get to the final page of this chapter. As we end off Märchen Crown, chapter number 18. Alrighty now. This is definitely a chapter for sure. I mean, on one hand, wow, Mikel has a new form, and he goes through and overwhelms King Ilya just like that. I mean, really, there's not a whole lot to this chapter for the main fact of it's just Mikel being overpowering and Ilya not being able to do anything about it whenever Ilya was winning the entire battle before. It's one of these really weird things where it's just like, oh yes, now he's just better than I am and just beating you all here in a moment. And it honestly just feels a little bit weird as this whole idea of, oh yes, Mikel's love is so strong because Rapunzel, he takes this hair braided form pretty much. It's so strong, oh my gosh, it's crazy. And eventually, Ilya just cannot continue it with his whole thing of like the feet and everything else. I sort of am inclined to enjoy Ilya's whole thing here of like, man, I guess I'd been afraid of the possibility that me and Belina didn't truly love each other, right? And he's like, hey, I tried to bury and put those fears away from my mind, and I convinced myself that belief was true. Fun fact, it looks like that Belina and Ilya are having sex while he says this, because it's just like, we just the image that we see is the two of them holding hands together, and we see what is very clearly the arm of Belina sort of sitting here, and the sort of like breast right beside of it. So it's like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I guess that Ilya was trying to bury all this from his mind that way. That's pretty fun, right? And then the whole idea of him like, man, I would remind myself of the pain and despair that bound us together. But eventually, I guess that sort of clouded the person who I actually truly loved, making me forget about who I did care about. And it's like, great, man, I'm so happy for you, Ilya. Maybe if we would have seen this in like a full chapter instead of more of just a, oh yeah, it would have been whatever, but I don't know. I've been very clear in saying that this series has had a lot of really high ups and downs for me. It started off pretty high, it dipped down pretty low. It was like, oh, world building got up pretty high. Oh, who are these ankle reapers? That's weird. They look like the KKK. We're not going to really focus on that too much. And then dipped back down. It's like, oh man, this is like some bad dialogue. It's like, oh, cool, this is an interesting fight. I'm interested to see where this goes. Wow, has Mikel actually died? And then it's like, no, he's actually alive. He got revived for a third time. Drops all the way back down to like ground zero pretty much. So yeah, that's Märchen Crown this week. I don't know how much longer the series is going. As I mentioned last video, Asakasa started a few new manga that he's writing for, and this manga just doesn't really seem all that inspired. Taking a look at all of the manga plus comments, there are honestly a lot of them that make me very interested in just knowing what other people think about this series. A lot of people are like, hey, was anybody confused about the art in this chapter? Like, hey, the art is good, but I can barely tell it's happening. The consensus is, yeah, Aji Okura, the guy who's doing the art, is doing a good job. I mean, he's a record of Ragnarok guy for all hell, right? But a lot of our people are like, hey, there's one person like saying like, hey, let's be honest, this manga is bad. We wouldn't read it if the author wasn't Asakasa. And honestly, that's sort of where I'm feeling right now. At this point, I am so far deep that I'm going to continue to cover the series come hell or high water. If the series turns to complete gold and I start loving it again, great. If it turns into pure comedy gold, is like, this is so bad, I don't know why I'm reading it, but it's a dumpster fire I want to read, I'm going to continue to read it. But the worst thing that the series can be is just mediocre, and that's honestly where I feel that this series is settling into right now. And it's a talk that I've had over these 18 other Märchen Crown videos. It's just a discussion of, do I want to actively read this? Would I actively be reading it if it wasn't for me making these videos on YouTube about it? And to be honest with you, I don't think I would be. And that's one of the worst things that I think a manga can get out of me, right? But with all of that else being said, if you guys did enjoy this video and enjoyed my thoughts of like, man, this chapter sort of wasn't great, well, I've got plenty of other Märchen Crown videos for you. I started covering this series at chapter number 1, or technically chapter number 0. That was a whole weird thing right there, right? But either way, all of those videos are up on my YouTube channel. There will be a playlist There'll be a playlist of all those videos in the description box of this video, along with the end card of this video as well. And yeah, on my YouTube channel at Glowplasma, I cover plenty of other anime and manga related content. So like, hey, if you want to hear me talk about a good manga like Kagurabachi, I've got videos for that every single week. But until next time, I'll catch you guys from Märchen Crown chapter number 19. It does look like, though, the next chapter is coming out in 2 whole weeks on, what is that, September 10th of 2025. So yeah, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks to talk about some more Märchen Crown. Until then, I'll catch y'all later. This will be Glowplasma 231, signing out.